What is your price? Because if your price is not your life, then you are for sale. Welcome back to The Price is My Life. Today we are joined by Master Warrant Officer retired Jeff Evely, 20-year Canadian Armed Forces veteran who served with distinction across multiple deployments in Canada. Once celebrated as a soldier, Jeff has since become a symbol of resistance. A veteran who now faces a ban from the capital of Ottawa, ongoing legal battles, and a personal journey that raises deep questions about duty, freedom, and the meaning of service in Canada. I first learned of Jeff when he went into the woods in Canada despite a ban on hiking in Canada. In fact, I had intended to do that myself, and then I found out somebody had already done it. Got his attention, flew to Nova Scotia to go hiking myself with OMG, and today Jeff joins us here in studio in West Palm Beach. Nice to see you again.
Likewise, James. Thanks so much for bringing me down here.
I know that we spent some time up there in Nova Scotia together. We had some long conversations, so I was hoping we could replay some of these for my audience, some of those conversations that we had. Let's go right to it. The travel ban in Nova Scotia, the absurd $25,000 hiking ban. And guys, if you want to pull up the ticket that Jeff received, and we have it on the screen right here, $28,872.50. This is a ticket that you received. You blew it up. My team thought that was hilarious. Just walk us through this ridiculous situation.
So I guess you'd have to take it back to 2023 to really understand, the full story. So they actually imposed a ban on hiking in 2023, which was a really bad wildfire season, but it was a blanket ban across the province, and I live on Cape Breton Island. So there's a slice of the ocean called the Strait of Canso that separates us from the mainland. It's a natural fire break. So at that time, I thought that the blanket ban was an overreach, and I tried to take them to court. The judge said that because I was not fined, there was no harm, couldn't stand on my rights alone. So they wouldn't hear my case. When they brought it in again in 2025, I said, well, I know what I have to do this time. I have to go out and I have to get the fine.
You knew that you had to do that.
Yes.
Not many people would do what you did. I don't know if did anybody else in Canada do that way?
I'm not aware of anybody else doing that. There have been other fines.
You knew you had to do it.
Mm-hmm.
It just sparked inside of you. You're gonna go defy the ban.
Yes.
Okay. So what was the outcome you were hoping for in doing that?
Well, the reason I needed the fine was to have these bans reviewed in light of our Charter and Rights of Freedoms, which is part of our Constitution. And the only way to get it into court was if I had some skin in the game, apparently. There had to be money involved. So that was why, that's why I say I knew that's what I had to do to get it into court. And what I did then was I actually called the Department of Natural Resources, who issue these fines, spoke to the supervisor, made an appointment to go in and get my fine. And I came in at a time of day that was good for them. I explained the situation to them, as I believe you've seen in the video that was viral. And I was, I think, very clear that I wasn't trying to make any trouble for them. I just wanted to, I said, I just want a piece of Tim Houston, which is the Nova Scotia Premier. And
we have the video here. You were very cordial. Let's play this video.
See, behind me, this is the woods. But over here, this is not the woods. This is the Department of Natural Resources, where the conservation officers work, who issue $25,000 fines for going in the woods. I don't know that there's a good spot to do this, but I'm just going to make this as painless as I can for those guys and go in here. And they have me on camera as what walking
in the woods.
It's not even a hiking path. You just went into the brush.
All right.
It's dense brush.
And maybe there's an easier way out of here than I came in. Let's try this. We good? Okay.
Okay. And I didn't ask, but did you write the ticket already, or
No, we'll meet you back up front.
back out front at the reception desk there?
Very kind.
Okay, if I bring my
Very
camera.
cordial.
Keep you guys off it?
Very kind.
Okay.
I would not be as
Thank
kind.
you.
I would be.
Uh-huh.
Fine is $20,872.50.
Okay. I thought it was 25,000. It's 28,870.
Victim fees, taxes.
Oh,
Victim fees?
Okay.
Who's the victim?
I am.
Oh,
Thanks very much.
you're the victim.
Gentlemen, I appreciate your courteous
You're
approach.
thanking them.
Nice chatting with you.
I guess
All
they're
right,
not the
take care.
problem individually. Were these guys tyrants or just following orders?
Just following orders. So that's a problem, clearly, with professional ethics. But at the same time, I think it's important to keep these matters in perspective. It's not like they were guarding the ovens of Auschwitz. And, you know, it's the real target is the people in charge. These are just kind of the guys that I have to go through. And, you know, they're just kind of regular guys from the neighborhood. I had a great conversation with one of them while they were writing my ticket, and we were just, you know, hey, do you know this guy? Do you know that guy? And doing kind of small town Nova Scotia small talk. So, you know, and as you can see, they shook my hand at the end of it. I think a little bit of professional courtesy went a long way.
And they're probably against it to a degree.
I do get that sense. Absolutely.
Some of the folks are against it.
Yeah.
So people don't know this, but there you are, Toronto Sun, 25 walk in the woods. Mm-hmm. Air Force vet defies Nova Scotia ban and is burned with hefty fine. That's you posing with the ticket. Yeah. Is Toronto Sun kind of like the New York Post of Toronto? Is it like the main tabloid? Wow.
Yeah, it is. It's a right-wing outlet, and they do some fun stuff like the Sunshine Girl and things like that. So it's very comparable.
So this blew up in the media for you.
Yeah.
This was was this the biggest thing you've ever been involved with media-wise?
Absolutely. This was the most viral that I've ever been, for sure.
How many interviews did you do?
I couldn't tell you. I couldn't even begin to count. Not hundreds, but definitely dozens.
And when I went up to visit with you in Nova Scotia, we were in the hotel there, and I think we have a video of you and I sitting together. And someone walked up to the table, and I thought they were going to say hello to me, and this is what we saw. Yes, random people walking up to you and thanking you for. Do you get that a lot?
You know, I haven't been out of my house much since I went viral because I've been doing so many interviews. But when I have been out, people have come up and thanked me. I get plenty of hate online, but I think real people out in real life, they can see that there's something very wrong here, and they're quite appreciative of the step that I took on behalf of everybody else.
Yeah, and people feel like they can't do it themselves, so they live vicariously through you.
Yeah.
Is that kind of how you see it?
Yeah. I was talking to a really good friend of mine since childhood just the other day, actually. And I haven't been talking to him in a while, but he was just saying how immensely appreciative he was because, you know, he has an autistic son at home. So he's already kind of encumbered. And I myself, I'm retired from the military. My kids are grown now. So it's kind of just me at home. I'm in a much better position, I think, than a lot of Canadians to prosecute these battles. And so I feel a duty to do so.
And we have a clip of me with Jeff in the parking lot, I believe it is.
Is where we are right here. You've got like an old truck path there. You can basically take a four-wheel drive through there.
Yeah.
You can follow that up, and that'll take you out along the fence line here. Now, it does curve back, but it kind of comes out right in front of where the tape is, so you'd lose your plausible deniability if you came out there. But if you follow the fence line, it'll come out further down the path,
it's just like there's a little creek you got to jump over and stuff. It's not a big deal.
I see the creek right there.
Yeah.
So this is us.
So
We're in the park
Add to the
in
fence,
Cape
follow the fence to
Breton,
the end,
and
up the creek,
Cape
down
Breton
the
is
trail, down the
where
bush.
people may not know the geography of Nova Scotia, but it's the northernmost tip of the province, right along the ocean, where there's a nice little park, and we replicated kind of what you did to a certain extent. We actually went walking around, and yeah, that was fun. And then we found one of these local workers to bring up Trump's name. It was kind of strange. I don't know, blaming this guy right here. We have this clip. This is a strange guy. Play this.
Hi there. Do you know where the bands are for hiking? We're not allowed to go in there. What happens if we go in there? $25,000 fine. $25,000? That's a lot of money. What's the reason? Fires? We don't have anything to start a fire though.
Doesn't matter.
If you want to break the law, talk to Trump.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah. Why is he bringing up Trump?
Because Mark Carney and the Liberal Party of Canada ran the last federal election, which was just last year, on a fear and hatred-based campaign. So actually earlier this year, pardon me. And his campaign slogan was "Elbows Up," which is a reference to hockey and getting greasy with your opponent in the corner. So this was all over the tariffs that the United States is putting on everybody in the world. Canada is one of 2 countries in the world to impose retaliatory tariffs, the other one being China. Yeah, they ran this fear and hatred-based campaign that was all the way up to the 2 Minutes of Hate from 1984 with Trump as Orange Goldstein. And now we have a very serious problem with mass formation Trump derangement syndrome in Canada.
Mass formation Trump derangement syndrome.
Absolutely.
Because of the tariffs. So the people are being propagandized by this Carney guy, and they just go along with it.
Yes.
They just passively go along with it. So this is what this gentleman here on the ATV or the four-wheeler, he's become victim to that.
Yes, they're deranged. It's.
I was pretty shocked that he brought Trump up. Like, I mean, I'm way up there, far away from the United States. It's kind of strange. He brought almost immediately when I brought up this hiking ban.
Yeah. And did you even mention that you were American to him?
I don't believe so.
Yeah.
No.
Isn't that bizarre?
Yeah.
So that should I think really demonstrates just how far gone Canadians really are down that propaganda rabbit hole. It's a real
and it's
shame
because they follow and just take to heart everything the media and the politicians are doing up there.
The media is state controlled in Canada. It's all state funded. So they all tend to promote the same narratives. And they get people whipped up into this frenzy where everything is an existential threat now, and it really appeals to people's survival instincts. And that's how the propaganda works, really. It always manipulates your emotions, and so this is what we see as people are quite frenzied.
And the state influence the power of money, because they can't bite the hand that feeds them. The government actually funds the media in Canada.
Yes.
And that's the CBC, Canadian Broadcasting. Are there any other media that the government funds?
It's pretty much all of them. So the CBC is probably the worst offender. In my experience with the interviews that I've done since I got my fine, Globalist News, or Global as they would put it, they were probably the worst offenders in terms of twisting the narrative. CTV is another major outlet. Even the ostensibly right-leaning outlets like National Post, they tend to be pretty good, but I find a little bit tempered. They will kind of bite back a little bit with respect to that hand that feeds them. But it's like I say, it's still kind of, they're holding back.
So Nova Scotia Premier Tim Houston, and the way it works in Canada is you have premiers in each province.
Yes.
And your prime minister is this Houston on here on Rebel News? Let's play this clip.
Today, we're telling Nova Scotians, stay out of the woods. We are restricting travel and activities that really aren't necessary for most of us. hiking, camping, fishing, and the use of vehicles in the woods are not permitted. Trail systems through woods are off limits. Camping is allowed, but only in official campgrounds. The fine for violating any of these bans is the same as the fine for the ban on burning, $25,000. And if you're a smoker, for God's sakes, be mindful of where you're butting your butt out. If
Your
you
what? Your
don't,
butts?
and you cause a fire, we will hold you accountable. So what does this mean if you have a home or cottage surrounded by a wooded area? We strongly encourage you to stay out of those woods, regardless of where they are. Please don't do anything that could unnecessarily put you, your family, or your neighbors at risk. This situation sucks. Summer is one.
Okay. He said, quote, the experts gave the advice. The experts. The advice of experts. I agree. Who are these experts? He said?
Senior bureaucrats.
Senior bureaucrats in the government?
Yes.
Which part of the provincial government?
Yes. Yeah. And that is, I think, pretty consistent all throughout the pandemic and through the last several years. Whenever they say experts, what they mean are senior bureaucrats.
Senior bureaucrats.
Yeah.
Did you know who they are specifically in this case, or?
Not. It's Tory Rushton is the Minister of Natural Resources, but I'm not sure.
And what incentivizes those bureaucrats, in your view, to go through with all this? What are the reasons they are advising this?
I think probably just risk aversion, more so than anything. There's a really strong risk-averse culture in the Canadian bureaucracy. I saw that even in the military.
Why is that in the Canadian bureaucracy?
Well, I don't think it's just the Canadian bureaucracy. I think we see it in the United States as well. But a lot of these people have never really done anything else. They just kind of come out of, they've been institutionalized their entire lives. Maybe they went to university and went right into a career in the public service. So they're kind of squishy and weak and, cowardly. So and their job, really, a lot of it is focused on risk management, but they don't manage very well at all. So instead, they just avoid risk altogether.
So Houston said, I'm happy to make sure that we're doing everything we can to protect people, to protect property, and just get through this fire season. And there he's talking about it. But how do you feel looking at Houston? Like, what tell me about that man. Like, pull his image back on the screen, producers, if you can. Like, what's his deal? What's his issue?
I think he would kind of fall into that risk-averse category again. He's more like an accountant. He comes from a BlackRock background. He's got a lot of connections with those guys. So there's always reason to believe that maybe there are conflicts of interest afoot. There's been a lot of speculation around development of natural resources that might be tied to this. I don't really think so. But I'll throw back to where he was saying he wants to do everything to protect life and property. But when he was asked at a press conference whether he had put a ban on spraying glyphosate into the forests, which is known to increase the risk of wildfire, he said, I don't know if anybody's spraying. So in other words, he did not put a ban on that, but he put a ban on hiking. So I think a lot of it is kind of managing the population and working for special interest groups, working in their favor.
That would be an interesting investigation to see what his connection is with those interest groups. The other comment I got from the video was that the guy's got his ATV or this four-wheeler spewing out smoke and sparks, but you're not allowed to go walking.
Yeah.
That's another one of those contradictions. This is James O'Keefe. You know me for exposing the truth and holding the corrupt elite responsible and accountable. However, today I want to tell you about protecting your own freedom, your finances. Before you buy any gold or silver, hear this. We're going through one of the biggest financial shifts of our lifetime. De-dollarization. Nations like China, Russia, and Saudi Arabia are pulling away from the US dollar. And that threatens your savings and retirement security. Legendary investor Ray Dalio warns skyrocketing debt, relentless money printing, and a weakening dollar are all part of a dangerous cycle that could impact you. That's why more Americans are turning to real assets like physical gold and silver. Gold just surged past $3,700 per ounce, and momentum is building. I've partnered with veteran-owned American Independence Gold to help you take action. Open a qualifying account today and get up to $10,000 in bonus gold and our free gold protection guide. And here's the best part. A portion of every sale supports Tunnel to Towers and wounded warriors. Freedom isn't given, it's secured. This is James O'Keefe. As always, this is not financial advice. Always check with your licensed financial advisor before you invest. We're just following the experts. It echoes a lot of what we heard through the COVID lockdown when governments imposed sweeping restrictions in the name of safety. And you've been involved with that before. People may not know you were part of the Freedom Convoy, standing up against what you saw as government overreach. I've had Viva Fry on this program, and he talked about that. In fact, Viva gave me your cell phone number. That's how one of the reasons I called you the first time I did. But how did those experiences shape the way you view this latest ban? How did your involvement in the Freedom Convoy inform you when it came to this walking ban?
Well, I think the Freedom Convoy was an overwhelming success. I think a lot of Canadians were pretty demoralized with the crackdown because they kind of expected that this war was going to be won in a single battle, but it doesn't really work that way in real life. We forced a tyrant to act like a tyrant at the convoy, exposed the government for what they really were, and ended a global pandemic. I mean, there were follow-on convoys in the United States. There was the Farmers' Rebellion in several European countries. There was another trucker convoy in Australia. So I think it was an overwhelming success. And again, there were very strong COVID vibes coming back with this ban in the woods where they were putting up caution tape and telling us where we couldn't go. It was almost like I was waiting for them to put the arrows on the gravel pathways to tell us which direction we could walk in to avoid starting a fire with our sneakers. But I took it upon myself to defy the ban so I could force that tyrant to act like a tyrant and just show him for how ridiculous he really is. I think that's the key.
So you wanted the tyrants to act like tyrants. It's like you're pushing them. It's almost like you're caricaturing them by taking it to an outlandish extreme or forcing their hand. Is that, where did you learn to do that, or how did that come to you to do it that way? Because it's pretty original.
I don't think it is original, actually. No, if you look at where we've succeeded in the past in terms of securing the future for humanity, you could go all the way back to Socrates, in the example that he set in defying the tyrants of his day and accepting his fate, which was merciful execution by the way of the hemlock. And his legacy is one, he's the father of the Enlightenment at the end of the day. And we see other examples, Jesus Christ with, an act of self-sacrifice to demonstrate to humanity, like he acted compassionately in the face of tyrants and accepted his fate. And it goes further up to, say, Martin Luther, for example, who was outlawed for standing up to the tyrants of his day. And when you were outlawed then that meant anybody could kill you if they so chose. But he did survive, but at the same time, he paid a really heavy price for the purpose of securing the future for generations to come. So I think that's kind of the model.
Martin Luther, Socrates, Jesus, and maybe even Charlie Kirk.
Definitely.
Who gave up his life for
Yes.
his friends. So these examples, Socrates, Jesus, Martin Luther, inspired you to kind of do what you do.
I think I'm inspired to stand up to tyrants regardless. I think that there's a long legacy of that in the West, going back to Alexander the Great. That's what our soldiers do. And when it comes to the tyranny within my own society, this seems to be the model that has worked for others in the past. So it's about the methodology, I think.
And in the case of Jesus, he's crucified. Socrates, but in your case, they backed down. Houston backed down, didn't he?
Well, we are allowed to walk in the woods
for now.
Yeah, they did a gradual walk back where actually my region opened up and they said, okay, you guys can walk in the woods there, but other regions of the province you can't.
Well, why do you think they did that?
Well, to make it appear as if they actually knew what they were doing, or there was ever any legitimacy to this walking ban. So they couldn't pull it all back at once, because then it would be clear to everybody that it was all a fraud. So they walked it back gradually, and in fact, they just imposed a burn ban across the whole province, even though the risk, according to the fire weather forecast, is low, and even though they have that burning ban in place, they didn't impose the walking ban this time. So that's progress.
That's progress. Yeah, I remember a week or something after I went up there, they had a map of the province, and certain parts where you could now walk.
Yes.
So that make it look like they knew what they were doing. So back to the Freedom Convoy, which I believe was in January 2022.
Mm-hmm.
You were arrested
Yes, sir.
at the War Memorial
Mm-hmm.
and convicted of mischief and obstructing police.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us how and why you were arrested.
Because I defied those tyrants. I was actually on my way to the War Monument because the veterans who had come to the convoy, we set up a sentry duty because Jim Watson, who was the mayor of Ottawa at the time, he fenced off the monument. There's the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier there. This is somebody's tomb. So he could defame the convoy participants and tell everybody that they were, peeing on the monument and stuff like this. So it was for the monument's protection. And the veterans, we took the fence down, told the police that we would set up a 24/7 sentry duty to protect it. I was running the shift schedule, so I tended to end up with the early morning shift. And as I was walking to the monument, the police told me I was not allowed to go to it, and I said, yes, I am. And I kept going until they took me down on the sidewalk and arrested me for...
They handcuffed you.
They handcuffed me, oh yeah.
And what was going through your mind when that happened to you? Because you're a soldier, you're a veteran.
Yeah.
You fought for your country. What was going through your mind?
It's a profound betrayal, I think. So it really kind of, like, it really hurts. But at the same time, I try not to take it personally. And there was, even as they were arresting me, like, these people are so assured of themselves. They were mocking me as if I were somehow ridiculous for...
Who was it that arrested you? What branch of the civil force?
It would have been multiple police forces. There were guys there from Vancouver. There was the Ontario Provincial Police. Oddly enough, Ottawa Police, their presence was kind of diminished. They brought in a lot of forces from outside the area who didn't have direct knowledge of what was happening on the ground, but were well propagandized by the media. So they thought that they were coming in there to stomp a bunch of Nazis, which I think explains a lot as to the kind of police response that we saw. And even as they were mocking me in handcuffs, I made sure I gave it right back and shamed them into silence.
When you were in the handcuffs, you were giving a... What did that look like? You were just talking to them and shaming them right there?
Yeah.
What'd you say?
Let me think. I said things like, you feel safety in your numbers now, but one day the mob will come for you too. And when it does, you'll be powerless to stop them.
And
having
did they respond to that?
Mind. They shut right up.
They shut up.
They did, as they were putting me
Did they
in
know that you were a veteran?
Absolutely. I was wearing my war medals.
And I think we have a picture, guys, throw it on screen, of these war medals. Soldier to dissident, 20-year military hero Jeff Evely banned from Canada's capital. What is the RAIR Foundation? RAIR. Do you know what that is? Yeah,
they're an American outlet. That's Vlad Sobolov, who is their correspondent in Ottawa.
There you are. There's your... What do those medals mean, just so we know?
So from left to right, from inside to outside, it's Afghanistan, Iraq, and 12 years of meritorious service. That's the CD on the armpit side. And then on the right side of my vest is that's not... It's a medal for the Nijmegen marches, the Walk of the World in the Netherlands that I did in 2016. So it's awarded by a duke. Most nations would allow me to wear it on my left side, but in Canada I have to wear it on my right.
So you were wearing these medals when they arrested you?
Yes.
Wow. And what happened then? You're in handcuffs. They put you in the back of... What happens at that moment?
So they took me to a processing facility in downtown Ottawa where they were taking all of the convoy participants. I spent the night there, and they told me to sign an undertaking saying that I would not go back to the downtown core where they set up what they called the red zone. I refused to sign it. I said I was going back. And so I was transported up to the Innis Road facility, which is a proper jail. There were a few other convoy participants in the paddy wagon with me, and there again, I refused to sign the undertaking. But eventually, like by the end of the weekend, it was clear to me that there was no protests to go back to. So ultimately, I did end up agreeing to not return to the downtown core of Ottawa, so I could continue doing this kind of work. But then I even ended up defying that a few months later. So they banned me from the whole city.
And was that in perpetuity, the ban, for a period of time?
Until my trial.
And what's the status of that?
So I had the trial at the end of last summer there in August. And now I'm just on a probationary period. They gave me 50 hours of community service and said that I couldn't attend a gathering of more than 25 people in Ottawa while I'm on the probationary period.
So in the United States, we have like misdemeanor and felony. What was the actual crime when you went to trial?
Oh, it was mischief and obstructing.
Is that a misdemeanor?
Yes, yeah.
Is it mischief and obstruction? What's the maximum penalty of that in Canada?
Believe it or not, it's 10 years for mischief.
10 years?
That's what Tamara Leach and Chris Barber, who were kind of the king and queen of the convoy, were facing leading up to their recent trial. At the end of the day, they didn't get any jail time, but the Crown was actually going for 7 and 8 years, respectively.
Wow, they didn't get any jail. And how did you afford the legal fees for this whole situation?
The Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms stepped in to provide my legal defense. They're a great civil liberties organization in Canada, and I'm working with them again to fight my fine for walking into the woods.
They're a nonprofit.
Yes.
Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms. We have 501c3s, which we have. I have one of those. Is in Canada, is that what it's called, a 501c3 for nonprofit organization? Or?
Yeah, it's called a not-for-profit.
Not-for-profit?
Yeah.
And Justice Center for, what was the name of that group?
Constitutional Freedoms.
Constitutional Freedoms. And the name of the guy there that you work with?
My lawyer specifically is Chris Fleury.
Chris Fleury.
Yeah.
Well, we like to highlight these groups because they're doing good work. And when you went into this situation, did you know, there we have it on the screen. Put it on the screen, guys. Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms. We defend freedom in Canada, registered charity founded in 2010. Constitutional freedoms of Canada through litigation and education. Litigation is always how they hurt people, Jeff. You know that. In my case, they've done that with me. I mean, when you faced the arrest in Ottawa, did you know this group before you were handcuffed?
I knew of them. Yeah.
Did you have them have your? But you had you had them have your back prior to this day, or it was after the fact?
Yeah, it was after the fact.
So when you were arrested, you didn't know what you were going to do.
That's right.
How you were going to get out of it.
Right.
It was like a leap of faith.
Something like that.
You were willing to go to prison.
Yeah.
For as long years.
Yeah.
And your children at that point were how old?
Oh, in 2022, they would have been grown.
What do they think about what you do and what you've done?
I think they have some reservations about it. We don't really get into it a whole lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there are not many people like you. You've been fighting these charges for this. It's taken a couple of years. How is that for you? I mean, we talked about the financial a little bit with the nonprofit defending you. How is that for you, both emotionally and spiritually?
It can take its toll. I'm not going to lie. It's it's been a long road. I've been self-representing in a couple of cases as well. So there's a lot of work that goes into that. So it can wear you down over time. But I just try to keep in mind that that's part of the strategy. Part of the strategy is to overwhelm us. Information saturation is a key feature in any like propaganda war, information operation. So I do my best to just kind of manage my stress with a lot of meditation, recreational activity like walking in the woods. I try to bear in mind, that like it's a war, and this just is what it is. You got to stay frosty. You got to. I used to say that there's two things you got to tell yourself when you're going to war. Number one, we're going to take casualties, and number two, we're not going to save all the children. So. You got to you have to accept these harsh truths in order to keep your wits about you and keep a level head. If you can't do that, then we're not going to be successful.
How do you compare the war that you've been fighting in Canada, because you did call it a war, and you're probably right on that, with the war that you fought overseas?
I would say that it's more prolonged when it's in Canada, so it tends to have that sustained effect over time. It's much more intense in theater. You can burn yourself out a lot quicker in theater. So I think it helps, because I'm looking at a lot of these people that are attacking me now, and I can kind of just shrug at it, because I'm like, what exactly do you think you're going to put me through that I haven't been through already? But on the other hand, there's that element of betrayal by my government, by the state that I served, by the people that I served. And I find that's the part that really stings the most.
How do you reconcile being a patriot, in other words, fighting for your country, with being ashamed, or for lack of a better word, ashamed? I've heard people say that, even in America. Like when I was raided by the FBI, I tend to look at the American flag a little differently than I did. There's an ideal, but it's just being brutalized by these unconstitutional circumstances. So how do you reconcile those two things, being a patriot, and then almost, this is not, what am I fighting for, almost?
It's it's not about me or any single one of us. It's about all of us, and it's about the future. And it's not as if my forefathers and ancestors didn't have to struggle through these periods of totalitarianism that we're going through right now. And the ones who can kind of rise above it are the ones who shape the course of history for the better. So I take a lot of solace in just knowing that I'm one of those people.
What restrictions do you face right now? You mentioned you're still facing some. You said Ottawa. Can you go there, or there's a restriction there?
No, I can go there. I actually flew down here from Ottawa because I was visiting with my grandson there. My son still lives there because that's where I finished up my military career, and so he lives and works there. I'm just not allowed to attend a gathering of 25 or more people, and I have to keep the peace and stuff like that.
Are you banned from any memorials?
No, I did. I definitely went to the War Monument the first night I was there. Yeah.
You went there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, I can't imagine how that must feel, having been facing these consequences as a veteran. And you mentioned the process, or I say the process is the punishment.
Yes.
And certainly you're going through this, and it's this labyrinth of bureaucracy and law. You said you represent yourself.
Mm-hmm.
In America, I don't know if it's called pro se in Latin in Canada, but tell me about that. You represent yourself in court.
Yeah. As soon as I got out of the military, actually the month that I took possession of my retirement home in Cape Breton, that was when the full-scale tyranny with vaccine mandates and vaccine passports came into effect. So I was barred from society right off the bat. The Legion actually refused me service. That's the veteran support organization in Canada. I bought my house crawling distance from the Legion because I was going to be the guy to kind of turn all that stuff around and the best retired veteran you'd ever seen. And they wouldn't even serve me because of my vaccine status. So I started defying the mask mandates in particular. I got arrested twice doing that. I was refused service in multiple locations. And what I would do is I would submit Nova Scotia human rights complaints for discrimination every time I was refused service. Now, the commission, the Nova Scotia Human Rights Commission, of course, just bundled those complaints together and denied them all in one letter. And I said, that's not good enough, and you're not following your own law. So I started taking them to court through a process known as judicial review in Canada, basically suing them. And I just had my latest appearance in the Nova Scotia Court of Appeals just last Wednesday.
Representing yourself?
Yes.
you write motions, or
Yes.
you do this yourself?
Yes.
How do you know how to do that?
I started with another challenge that the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms had issued with respect to the travel ban when they banned unvaccinated from planes and things like that. And I just started with that as a template, and I pursue these leads as to where all of these different laws are being pulled from, and kind of learn as I go. I didn't get hip to AI until much more recently, actually. So, and that's helpful, but you can't really rely on it at the same time.
No, it's not there fully where it needs to be. I hope that it does become there, so that liberty-minded people such as yourself and myself, because I think lawyers, I have not had the best experience with them. But I hear another thing you said that struck me is you said that, you've been through it before in theater overseas in the Middle East, or you've been through it before in your own life. So it's like, what are you going to do to me that I haven't been through already? There is a kind of stoicism and strength, and because I experience that right now with what I'm going through in Washington, D.C. with a federal case, and this lawyer, Mark Zaid, is trying to dox my undercover people. And I've been through court so many times that there's a kind of peace in experience. You've been shot at, you've been arrested how many times, handcuffed. It's like, once you go through that a few times, it's like a muscle that you're exercising almost.
Exactly, yeah.
But I think what makes your case so special, and what I'm so impressed by, is that you do represent yourself. That's truly remarkable. I mean,
Thanks.
When you're in the courtroom and does the judge go, "Are you sure you want to be doing this?" Does anyone say that to you?
A little bit. And I think there's a body of doctrine that encourages a little bit of leniency when it comes to
pro se, go and represent yourself.
Yeah. And I'm going up against government lawyers, and quite frankly, I find I'm a better lawyer than they are a lot of the time.
Probably because you care more too.
Yeah.
Your heart's in it.
Yeah.
I don't know where their heart is exactly.
If they have one at all.
If they have one. Or maybe that's another conversation, is these folks that handcuffed you in Ottawa, what is going through their actual minds? What are they actually feeling?
I know the defense that they gave me in Ottawa when I was, kind of tearing a strip off of those guys. I was a sergeant major at the end of my career, so I know how to do it properly. And it was professional. It wasn't profanity laden or anything like that. And one of the guys said, hey, it's not us that's doing this. This is up to the lawyers to sort all this stuff out, like it's not personal or something. And I said to those guys, I was like, so said the guys who were guarding the ovens of Auschwitz. So there's a really fundamental principle at play that I think is not being impressed upon some of our professional security services right now. It's I heard the same thing when they brought the crackdown in initially. We were holding the line, and there was a whole mass of police coming toward us. I was very vocal with those people as well. This was on February 18th, 2022, the initial police crackdown. I would have been arrested the following morning on my way to my shift at the monument, but they were pleading with me from the line in Ottawa and saying, it's not us. It's not us. That's the Nuremberg defense.
Well, it is them, though. They're the ones doing it.
Yes.
Like, if you were in their shoes, you wouldn't be arresting some veteran.
No.
Even if that was your job. But that really goes to the heart of it. I mean, this is the reason why I've invited you on this program, and the reason why I admire you is because you don't. I mean, it seems like you tell the truth no matter what. You tell the truth, and these guys who are arresting you, it's even worse that they're saying it's not us, because they know that it's wrong.
Yeah.
And they do it anyway.
Yeah.
Why do they do it? Because they want money? They want to get their pension or their paycheck? What is the reason why?
I think the default really on the human species, I would go all the way to say that, humans are basically evil. And it takes effort to be good. You have to be paying attention, and asking yourself, why am I doing this? I think that the Christian doctrine, really, I'm not a religious person, but the Christian doctrine, I think that really kind of comes through, where man has a sinful nature. And there's a lot of work that you need to do on yourself to overcome that. And in the professional security services, these are the kinds of doctrines into which people are supposed to be indoctrinated. Like, you have a duty to defy illegal orders. That's what I was taught when I went to basic training. And this is something that goes all the way back to World War II and the Nuremberg trials. So I was taught that I had a duty to defy an illegal order. People will ask, how will I know if an order is illegal? The answer is you have to use your own judgment. What kind of protection is going to be available to me if my judgment is not sound? Well, nothing. I mean, you're going to go in front of a judge, a court martial, and if you're wrong, then you're going to end up being charged under the Code of Service Discipline. And why do we impose these kinds of burdens on our young people? Well, it's because that's the only thing that separates us from Nazis. So I find that this is a very fundamental principle that is lost on too many of our security professionals right now, and we got to get back to our basic principles in the West. That's what's lacking.
It starts with the individual. It
Yes.
starts with each of us. People always say, "Well, I want to affect other people," but it starts within ourselves, which is what you're doing. You're focused on what you can do individually, facing possible incarceration, bankruptcy, taking your assets away, putting you in prison. I mean, is that stuff? Do you ever, for a moment, feel just a little bit scared?
Always.
You do.
Absolutely.
How do you overcome that?
I think I recognized a long time ago that people would say to me, it's a good thing. People will say to me these days, it's a good thing we have you around because you're not scared, and we're all scared, so you can do this on our behalf. And I say, I am scared. I'm absolutely scared, just like everybody else. It's a very normal human emotion, but courage is the act of overcoming that fear and doing the right thing anyway. So I try to collect myself. You mentioned Stoicism. I practice on the daily. I've already done several breathing exercises and meditations today. I wear my pinky ring here. It says Momentum Mori, as in remember your mortality, or remember your death. Remember that you must die. You have one life. To me, I don't believe in an afterlife. A lot of people tend to think that strips meaning out of life, but I say that it's up to you to give your life meaning, and you only have one shot, so you better make it count. I think it makes it all the more precious.
People, do you fear death?
Yes, I do.
Tell me about that.
It's a very natural, I think, instinct that is programmed into us to fear death. But what the Stoics would say is, fear not death, but fear never beginning to live. So I do find, and maybe it's just my natural inclination, but I have always been kind of wired that way, where I got to get out there and I got to make it count. I don't have a lot of time on this planet, so if you wanna have a meaningful life, then that's going to take some. You're going to have to take some risks, and in doing that, you're going to have to overcome that fear.
It seems like I think a lot of perhaps Christians fear death in a way because they're afraid to face themselves. That's what I think. But people, we're all going to die. I mean, every one of us is going to die, unless Elon fixes the heartbeat such that it doesn't stop. But we're all going to die, and I think that the death of Charlie Kirk certainly reminded a lot of us of our own mortality.
We're standing up to the powers that tried to discredit us, silence us, smear us, raid us, and throw us in jail. They've awakened a sleeping giant. We're building a movement of transparency and accountability in both the public and private sectors, because we run from nothing, we hide from nothing. And when you join and get your full access pass, you fuel a movement for truth. We are the media now.
So another Canadian that I admire, Jordan Peterson. I'm reading this book, We Who Wrestle with God, and because what you said about people being bad, or a Hobbesian approach would be life is nasty, brutish, and short, and people are bad. And there may be some truth in that. And I read this book, and I just wanted to share with you a couple passages because it's very spiritual, and it talks about the book of Job in the Bible, which is about this guy that suffered and went through all these things. And he said, well, why do I continue to not become vengeful and bitter? And so there's some things that Peterson writes here in his book about unjust suffering, and some of the things that you've been through in your life, where you've been handcuffed and jailed just for standing up on principle. So Peterson writes that it is much better, even under conditions of extreme and apparently unjust suffering, to reaffirm our commitment to life more abundant and to undergo the changes necessary to bear our terrible burden. This is a terrible truth, given what human beings are inevitably called on to bear. Peterson goes on page 212. All the horrors of life, unwanted social accusation and judgment, which is what you're going through, come raining down on Job, who refuses, despite it all, to lose faith and to succumb to bitterness, resentment, and nihilism. So I want to continue reading this, but how do you prevent yourself, Jeff, from succumbing to bitterness, resentment, and nihilism?
I read a page out of the Meditations of Marcus Aurelius every morning with my coffee. And what he would say is that the sweetest revenge is to not be like those who harmed you. And I often express that as, the sweetest revenge is to just be a better man, and to kind of rise above it. It's been said for a long time that revenge is a dish best served cold. I think a lot of people take that the wrong way. I think what we mean when we say that is we need to take some time to cool down, kind of like when the forest ban first came into effect. I did a kind of a funny video before I went in to get the fine because I was really upset. I was really mad about the situation and that I had to keep doing this stuff. But I took some time to kind of bring the temperature down a little bit before I went in and spoke with those guys. And I think that, like I said, that professional courtesy, it really went a long way, as opposed to if I went in there all hot-headed. Yeah. The thing is, the reason why the dish is best served cold is because if you take it while it's hot, it will burn you too. So that's how I take it.
Well, it's like there needs to be some emotional detachment. Like the difference between, I was going to ask you the difference between justice and vengeance. Because you're on a justice mission.
Yes.
So the difference there, certainly one of those issues is there needs to be a detachment, a rational detachment is one. What's the other difference in your mind between vengeance and justice?
I think that in vengeance, it's you feel wounded, and so your instinct is to wound back. And so the problem then becomes, where does it end? And again, with the theme of revenge, it just goes on in perpetuity, like in, Afghanistan, tribal warfare, family on family, constant. So, there needs to be kind of a principled approach, and that's what justice is supposed to be.
Right. I like that. The second issue is that it just goes on and back and forth, people hitting each other back as they go. But it also seems like you've referred a lot to following the rule of law. You referred into Canada. Remind us what it is. You're citing the human rights issues, and can you talk a little about what it is you're citing when it comes to the law as far as standing up to your rights?
It was the Nova Scotia Human Rights Code, and that's administered under the Canadian Human Rights Code. A lot of it takes, they take a page out of the UN's Universal Declaration on Human Rights, so I kind of loop a lot of that stuff in there, and I make reference to our Charter Protected Rights under our Constitution as well.
Yeah, I think one nation under law, if there's there's proportionality in the administration of justice, where you're treated equally under the law. So by citing that law, I also think it lends itself more towards justice than revenge. because for you it's just about, well, this is what the law says, this is what our rights are.
Yes.
Going back to Peterson, I'm reading this book and it reminded me of our conversation. This is from page 213. Go out into the world with all of its challenges and opportunities and prevail. Learn to handle the serpents instead or hiding or fleeing from them. The spirit within us that is eternally confident in our victory. It goes on page 214. All such bitter, albeit apparently justified and requisite faithlessness, does it transform what might otherwise be tragedy into something much more like hell. When we're called upon to suffer injustice and tragedy, which you have suffered, perhaps you will continue to suffer, is our suffering not inevitably multiplied manifold by acquiescence to anger, envy, resentment, and vengefulness? The serpent lurks forever in the garden and is thus best confronted in a spirit antithetical to that of resentment and arrogant, wounded pride, no matter how much poison it exudes. So yeah, this idea of we are called to, I think the book of Job teaches us that, we're kind of called to face the injustice of the world. And you mentioned Marcus Aurelius is the guidebook for you, but the idea of just not give in to, I guess, a lack of faith, to just total nihilism and total despair.
Yeah.
But to face it with a smile, like a happy warrior. That's
Yes.
that's how Andrew Breitbart, my mentor, would call it happy warriorism.
Yes.
And is that kind of how you see yourself with the Stoics and Marcus Aurelius?
Absolutely. And the happy warrior component of it is something I got very familiar with while I was in Afghanistan. You would not believe the kinds of things that fly out of soldiers' mouths when they're in a war zone. The humor, the first lesson that I took from Afghanistan is the humor is a coping strategy for humans. And the things that come out of soldiers' mouths get pretty dark in a war zone as they acclimate to those circumstances. I even know some guys who had some problems when they came back to Canada because they start reflecting on the kinds of things that they said and they feel like they're a monster. And what I've said to some of those guys is, you know, you're not a monster, you're a human. You did what you had to do to get through those circumstances with your psyche intact. They're just jokes. They don't do any harm. And so you chose the least harmful option. You protected yourself from harm without harming another. And that's what ethical decision making is all about. It's about choosing the least harmful option. So yeah, I think that the happy warrior component of it is I'm having a lot of fun with the province of Nova Scotia in just mocking them in how ridiculous they are. And we can meme these people, I think.
Your video
obscurity.
in the bush was incredibly viral. I don't know how many millions of views it got on Facebook, but it was incredibly viral.
Yeah.
Just the visual aspect of you doing this was I'm sure you're acting as a role model for other people, because if they see that you can do it,
Yeah.
and for lack of a better word, getting away with doing it, well, then they might feel the ability to do it too.
It's about discipline at the end of the day. That's what I really value. It's like, I think probably the best word I could use is mastery. The Stoics, you know, they have kind of their four guiding principles.
What are those?
Oh, it's justice. Sorry, I'm gonna fumble it now, but it's wisdom, justice. You're going to have to cut this.
We can use ChatGPT
Yeah.
to help you. If someone wanted to get into Marcus Aurelius, what would be the best thing? The meditations?
Yeah, the Meditations of Marcus Aurelius.
1 second.
I just gave a presentation on this, and
Let me just see what the four guiding principles of Stoicism. Wisdom, the ability to navigate complex situations in a rational and calm manner.
yeah.
Knowing what is good, bad, and indifferent. Courage, facing pain, adversity with endurance. Justice, treating others fairly with kindness and honesty.
Yeah.
And temperance, practicing self-control, moderation, and balance in all things.
Yeah. So I would say it's more like courage, discipline, justice, wisdom.
Understood.
Yeah. So
And this is how you live your life.
Yeah. Courage, discipline, justice, wisdom. All of those four things, I think, could probably be described as mastery, as in mastery of myself, my ego. Things that the Stoics didn't talk about were mastery of the environment so much. Like I could build a house, I could build a car, I can build a air defense radar for that matter. I can play a guitar, I can sing a song. I was the president and head coach of the Kandahar Mixed Martial Arts Club while I was in Afghanistan. So I value mastery, acquiring a lot of these skills, and I think that the Stoicism with those 4 guiding principles are how I master myself, my ego, and how to be a good human.
And it's not, the Stoics don't talk about how you want to influence other people. It's really about mastery of yourself, correct?
Yes, and a lot of it has to do with setting an example for other people as well. And I would point people to Book 2, Verse 1 of the Meditations of Marcus Aurelius. I'm not going to be able to quote it verbatim, but he starts out by saying that when you rise in the morning, tell yourself before you go out to face the day that I will be met with the busybody, the ungrateful. He basically means assholes. He goes through a whole list of these things. And he says they do all of these things for they know not good from evil.
That sounds very much like what Jesus said on the cross. Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do.
Exactly. And so I think this whole experience has really served to show me that I personally have a level of discernment on these issues that other people lack. And so what do you do with that situation? Do you condemn the world and become nihilistic? I don't think so. I think it's more like it's up to us who see these things to show others the way.
Well, thanks to modern technology, we have the verse. Quote, when you wake up in the morning, tell yourself the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. That's very true.
Mm-hmm.
That's usually more true in politics, by the way. I guess if you're up there in, rural Quebecois, you meet some nice people. But if you're in the cities, or if you're in politics, or media, you're going to see these sorts of folks. Meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous. I think jealousy is probably one of the worst.
Yeah.
They are like this because they can't tell good from evil. We have it on the screen there.
Mm-hmm.
They can't tell good from evil. That's very profound. But I have seen, this is Marcus Aurelius writing, quote, but I have seen the beauty of good and the ugliness of evil, and have recognized that the wrongdoer has a nature related to my own. So when he says I have seen, that he speaks from his experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I've recognized that the wrongdoer has a nature related to my own, not of the same blood of birth, but the same mind, and possessing a share of the divine. So that sets the tone for practicing patience and understanding towards others, knowing that everyone is flawed but connected. And I think that's something what I drew from your video. And I would have not done it that way, but that doesn't mean I probably have things, frankly, Jeff, I could learn from you.
Thank you.
It's almost
Praise
like
from
you're showing
Caesar.
compassion towards the wrongdoer, I would say,
Yeah.
due to your experience
Yeah.
in life.
Mm-hmm.
And you were mentioning a moment ago, was it forgive them, they don't know what they're doing, or what is it that Aurelius said?
He said they do all of these things for they know not good from evil.
They know not good from evil.
It depends on there are different translations.
Correct. So. Yeah, they know not good from evil, and that might be a transition for your experience overseas, a life of service in the Canadian Armed Forces. How did that experience overseas teach you the difference between good and evil?
Well, I think it was Nietzsche. Well, it was Nietzsche who said that those who fight monsters should see to it that they do not become monsters themselves. For if you gaze into the abyss, it gazes back. And I think that's part of the reason that we've sent young men off to the boundaries of the empire to stare into that abyss, is to let it change a little piece inside of them, so they can carry that evil around with them for study and grow wise with age. And when you see the way that humans really treat each other, in anarchist when there's anarchy and chaos, it's very sad and sick, but also I think congruent with what we've discussed already with respect to man's sinful nature itself. I think the 7 deadly sins are pretty well formulated, and that is the default state. If you look at homicide rates in hunter-gatherer societies, they dwarf modern day Chicago, New York, Detroit, LA. There's cannibalism, ritualistic sacrifice. These kinds of things are pervasive in the ancestral environment. So I think that a lot of what we are tasked to do in becoming good humans in this life is to overcome what Darwin might have called the lowly stamps of our origins. So we all have these same instincts. We have that aggression. We have that drive for dominance. We're a social hierarchical primate. And we also have the capacity to do good. We also have the capacity, we have the cerebral capacity to overcome that, which is unique in the animal kingdom, makes us very special.
And overseas in the when what you witnessed, can you talk a little about in your military career when you faced moral or ethical challenges, times that tested your loyalty or integrity?
Yeah, I can. I want to be clear, first of all, that I was there in a supporting role. Like, I'm not a combat veteran. I was an electronics specialist. I worked with the unmanned aerial vehicles. So we really had the bird's eye view of the war the entire time. So I saw a lot of action, just not firsthand. I think several times I actually watched Canadians die during night missions, and then I would go to their ramp ceremonies the next day. And I think what I really struggled with was the level of apathy that I saw all around me with my chain of command in particular.
Apathy.
Yeah. There was a lot of unprofessionalism that I saw. Like, people just didn't even seem to care so much. They weren't taking it very seriously. My general, the guy who pinned my first campaign star for Afghanistan and awarded me a task force commander's commendation. His name was Daniel Menard, and he was the task force commander, a Canadian general. He actually got kicked out of Afghanistan, not for the first time he negligently discharged his weapon in front of the troops, not for having an affair with his civilian admin assistant, but for the second time that he negligently discharged his weapon right in front of the chief of defense staff. So, this clownery, this idea that it was all just kind of a big joke to some of these people, I found to be probably the most disturbing. Yes. Yeah.
It was just a apathetic clownery.
Yes.
Wow. And why do you think that is?
I think we're going to get into some really deep stuff about human nature here. But
well, go for it.
Okay. So my read of Freud is that we're born sociopaths. Savages, as our ancestors might have called them. Barbarians are just savages with modern technology. And in Civilization and Its Discontents, Freud discusses how the process of disciplining our toddlers and children installs the superego, or what most of us would think of as a conscience, into the mind. And in a place like, say, Afghanistan, people don't really invest in their children so much because a woman will die, say, at the age of 40 after she's had about 10 children, maybe 3 of them survive. So they tend not to want to get attached to them right away and don't really start to invest in them until they're more like teenagers. And by then, it's probably already too late. So there's this underdevelopment of the superego that has it is characterized by a kind of a lack of value for human life. I think it was Voltaire that said, to feel pain is to be human, but to feel the pain of others, to feel pain is to be alive, but to feel the pain of others is to be human. So there are a lot of people out there, more than I think we like to admit, who aren't really having a conversation with themselves inside their head and don't really feel the pain of others the way that many of us do.
And in the Canadian Armed Forces, that was perhaps more prevalent than the American Armed Forces.
I don't think so. I think this is kind of a human universal.
Just universal.
Yeah, and I think that it has to do with the way that we raise children in different eras. And Daniel Menard, for example, he was a baby boomer, and they were raised with the permissive parenting style of Dr. Benjamin Spock, known for its indulgence of children, where it's almost like they can do no wrong, the beaver cleavers of the world. And so they end up with a kind of underdeveloped superego where there's a lack of empathy for the rest of us.
Are your parents still alive?
Yes.
And how did they raise you?
Not as indulged, I can tell you that. I'm a Gen Xer. We raised ourselves. And
What year were you born?
I was born in 1978.
1978.
Yeah.
84, so I guess I'm on the millennial side of things.
Yeah, I think you're kind of right on the cusp.
Right on the
there.
cusp.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This is James O'Keefe. You know me for exposing the truth and holding the corrupt elite responsible and accountable. However, today I want to tell you about protecting your own freedom, your finances. Before you buy any gold or silver, hear this. We're going through one of the biggest financial shifts of our lifetime. De-dollarization. Nations like China, Russia, and Saudi Arabia are pulling away from the US dollar. And that threatens your savings and retirement security. Legendary investor Ray Dalio warns skyrocketing debt, relentless money printing, and a weakening dollar are all part of a dangerous cycle that could impact you. That's why more Americans are turning to real assets like physical gold and silver. Gold just surged past $3,700 per ounce, and momentum is building. I've partnered with veteran-owned American Independence Gold to help you take action. Open a qualifying account today and get up to $10,000 in bonus gold and our free gold protection guide. And here's the best part. A portion of every sale supports Tunnel to Towers and wounded warriors. Freedom isn't given, it's secured. This is James O'Keefe. As always, this is not financial advice. Always check with your licensed financial advisor before you invest.
And so you raised yourself as a Gen X?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were the ones who were told to grow up and be the men of the house when we were 6. Feral children, outside all the time. If you got thirsty, you drank from the neighbor's hose, and when the street lights came on, then it was time to go home.
Were you always this way, the way that you are now, or what point in your life did you become more this way?
No, I think it was kind of always there. Like I said, we were feral children, and there was a kind of rebelliousness. The punk rockers, of the 80s and 90s, grunge music kind of came in around that time. Anti-establishment, anti-institutional. I skipped school a lot when I was a teenager. And it was really just kind of a game to me. My teachers would say, you cannot miss this much time and still pass the exam. And I would say, challenge accepted. See you 2 weeks before I write your exam.
But when did you really start thinking about liberty and freedom and the Constitution?
Oh, that came later. But I think I had a very strong sense of justice and injustice very early on, just with kind of the way that I saw institutions being run, and I didn't really have much time for even the political correctness that was setting in when I was in high school.
What was your earliest memory of feeling a sense of injustice in Canada and in the world at large?
Oh, gosh, I think I could tell you times from my school when somebody vandalized. I was in junior high, and somebody vandalized a trophy case, and so they canceled a dance for the entire school. And we did a walkout to say, that's not justice. That's blanket punishments for all. And we got our dance back. And in high school, I saw a lot of the...
This is in Cape Breton?
Yeah. And I remember in high school, there was an incident where basically the administration, because of their two-tiered justice and the way that they treated a fight, or a lot of fights, in our school, there was a two-tier justice system depending on your race. And so we had a lot of Indigenous kids that went to our school, and there was quite a bit of conflict, and the administration wouldn't protect us, wouldn't protect like the white kids in this situation. And we had one situation where one kid got swarmed. Now, mind you, he did carve a racist slogan into a desk, so we all knew it was going to happen. It was really stupid. It was like grade 12, but he ended up getting swarmed by the Indigenous kids, and the administration's response was to send the Indigenous kids home with all the pizza from the cafeteria and suspend the kid who got beat up for 3 weeks. And so there was a walkout over that because it was a safety issue, and it eventually led to essentially a race riot at my high school.
Between the Indigenous people and the...
Yes, and I felt really bad about that.
What percentage of your high school was Indigenous?
I don't know, maybe 10%, something like that, 10
First
or 20.
Peoples, it's called in Canada, First People.
Yeah, they call them First Nations, Indigenous.
First Nation.
Yeah. And they would do struggle sessions even then, where we had to go to the multicultural day, but it was all just Indigenous drum beating ceremonies.
Struggle session, making you feel abused for this dynamic.
Like I had to overcome my whiteness or something.
And at an early age, you saw this and you were repulsed by that. Is that something that was given to you by your parents? Was it something from your environment? Were you born with it? What do you think? That repulsion to political correctness?
I think it had to do with my upbringing as a Gen Xer and coming up behind the baby boomer generation, who were the purveyors of political correctness, which I think, as you realize, has now metastasized into this full-blown wokeness. And it is the same generation that's running all of our institutions right now. Just demographically speaking, it's a consequence of natural attrition. And I'm getting into the fourth turning now.
The Fourth Turning is a book that you and I have talked about where people, I think Steve Bannon recommended it to me like 7 years ago, where the first turning was the American Revolution. Walk us through the first three turnings.
Sure. So this it's called a saeculum, or a great year in the ancients. That's what the ancients would have called it, the ancient Greeks. And the great year has a spring, a summer, an autumn, and a winter. And like in a calendar year, where days are at their darkest, winter in the great year is when times are at their darkest. So that's where we are right now. As a matter of fact, it's been 81 years since D-Day, 82 years since Gettysburg, and 81 years since D-Day, 81 years before that was Gettysburg, and 82 years before that was the colonial triumph at Yorktown. So we're right at about the point where it's going to climax this year. And the reason we keep going through these cycles is it's because the generation that surmounts the previous major crisis that threatens our civilization, the previous one being World War II, and that generation being the GI generation, in the wake of the major crisis, they raise their children as indulged. They're kind of the special and perfect little darlings of the new dawn of the Enlightenment. We develop a lot of new technologies during the crisis. Basically, the whole modern era was developed during World War II, with everything from radio, radar, radio telephony radar, SATCOM, rocketry. The whole modern era really came out of that. So we get these higher standards of living, massive economic upswing, and have a massive population boom. That always happens. There's always a baby boomer generation in the wake of these crises, and those are the ones who are raised as indulged, who essentially in the words of Strauss-Howe generational theory, they follow the generational archetype of the prophet, or those who found our religion. So when they reach peak institutional power, just prior to retirement, that's when the new theocracy is reined in. And right now we have a woke theocracy, as I think you can see if you're paying attention. And this crisis doesn't end until the baby boomers retire, right around...
It's happening soon.
Very soon, around 2030. I think America will be coming out of it by 2030. Canada might be more like 2032, 2033.
And what happens then at the fourth turning, from your reading and understanding of history?
Well, this would be the fourth turning, and 2030s would be when the next first turning starts. So the cycle resets.
So what happens during the turning this time?
Then we go back into a high, which is the economic upswing, the new technologies.
We are in the turning.
We are in the fourth turning right now.
We've seen the worst of it.
Yes, this is the climax year, I think.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, Yeah, it's in the past it's been war. It's been war and
Yeah.
upheaval.
It is war. It's just that it looks very different this time. Most of it is entirely clandestine.
I see.
Yeah.
I interviewed General Flynn, and he had wrote a book called 5GW, Fifth Generational Warfare, and
Yeah.
that was the thesis. It's
Yes.
very, very dark. It's the intelligence community, the national security state,
Yeah.
the administrative state, the deep state, the psyops, all that kind of stuff. What do you think is the worst? Here we have the graphic on the screen. Hard times create strong men create good times create weak men,
Yep.
weak men create hard times. What do you think the darkest thing happening right now in this fourth turning is?
Definitely in Canada, it would be the state-imposed biomedical gender transitions of children. In Canada, you face 5 years in jail as a parent if you do anything to try to stop it. And they're doing them, by the hundreds in Canada. And these people are, they're going to be permanent medical patients for their entire lives. So there's a profit incentive that's involved there for big pharma. And again, we see this kind of cult of child sacrifice that I think is the default on the human species that resurges every so often.
The Fourth Turning. Yes, it's a book that I recommend. I should have a book club, by the way. My team suggested that, and I will do that. The Fourth Turning.
Gender roles are at their narrowest in the fourth turning.
There it is. William Strauss, Neil Howe. What the cycles of history tell us about America's next rendezvous with destiny. And also, I mean, just Tucker talks about this too, but this just inflation is just really bad right now. I don't. It's a whole other subject, but people my age and younger cannot afford homes. You have to be making outrageous amounts of money to buy a house in the United States. Is that true in Canada, or how does it work?
Oh, it's worse in Canada.
It's worse.
Yeah, you guys actually got a market correction because you didn't inject a massive stimulus like we did in Canada to preserve housing prices. So at least you had a crash where housing is probably about a third the cost in America as it is in Canada because we never got that.
And the
market
hospitals
correction.
I visited or saw from a distance in your province, they don't look too good. They're not a place I'd want to go.
You don't want to go to a Canadian hospital. I mean, you can't get help in Canada. If you have, I had to get a spinal surgery done. I went to Germany to get it done because there's no hope.
You had to pay out of pocket.
I paid out of pocket, yeah.
And you're a veteran.
They refused to reimburse me, Veterans Affairs.
They refused. Now, is the Veterans Affairs medical help in Canada better than the average or about the same?
There is no medical care through Veterans Affairs in Canada. In the United States, if I were an American veteran, I could actually just go to a military hospital and show them my ID and be seen and get an MRI and things like that. But in Canada, they did away with all that stuff, and Veterans Affairs is strictly bureaucracy that manages money.
Tell us about your running for election, the People's Party.
Yeah.
Is that right? Mm-hmm. What are you running for?
Member of Parliament, so that would be the equivalent of a congressman in the United States. We had the 2025 election. Like I said, they ran the elbows up campaign that resulted in mass formation Trump derangement syndrome. But I definitely got out there and did my best to make waves and make a big splash. We're the newest party in Canada, so we haven't actually won any seats yet, but the platform itself is why I'm there. I'm about the ideas and the principles for which we stand. And the platform that we have is the best thing I've ever seen in Canadian politics. So that's what I intend to advance.
When is your election?
When? It's whenever they decide to have an election. So that'll be one of the first things to go if I ever get in there is the incumbent, the people in power, the prime minister, basically, well, they have this process where somebody else actually calls the election, the governor general, but the governor general is appointed by the prime minister. So it's all very partisan and lends itself to this kind of totalitarianism, I think, much more readily than fixed election dates like you guys have down here. So we need some of that.
and you have your website right there. But who is the leader of the People's Party of Canada?
Maxime Bernier.
Maxime Bernier.
He's kind of a dissident conservative. He was with the Conservative Party of Canada, and in 2017 he ran for leader. They conducted the leadership race on the Dominion voting machines, and the Conservatives basically wanted their Justin Bluto in there, so they picked Blandrew Shear because he's got dimples. And it came down to 50.1% to 49.9%. And when they asked for a recount, they were like, well, we already shredded all the paper ballots, but you can look at the Dominion counters.
Canada is the one country of any country in the world I get asked to go over there and investigate this and that. And I intend to do more of that, but I get more messages and I intend to share them with you. I will share them with you.
Please do.
Just during COVID, I got, just tens of thousands of DMs from Canadians. Please come to my country. And the problem is, generally speaking, is that you don't have a First Amendment like in your Bill of Rights as we do.
Yeah.
Any other country but America, I'm in deep trouble.
Yeah. And
I've got enough problems here, but I will continue to share if I get messages from people in Canada, and I will continue to share them with you. The show is called My Price is My Life. Every guest has paid a price for standing up for their convictions. What do you think of all the things you've been through in your life? What's the greatest price that you've paid?
I'm kind of going through some stuff right now, actually, because my daughter got swept up in all the gender ideology. She was indoctrinated in Ottawa schools when I got posted there, and she's 22 now and just had her breasts removed the week before last. She doesn't talk to me anymore because I don't support this transition, but I've stood on my principles the entire time, and I won't give in to the kind of social pressure and Marxist tactics that she frankly deploys against me. I love her more than anything in the world, but this is a pretty heavy price to have to pay.
That's got to be hard, man.
Yeah,
that's gotta be hard.
It's probably the hardest thing that I've ever had.
How many kids do you have?
I have two.
Two.
Yeah.
And this is your daughter.
Yeah.
So that's one of the reasons why you're fighting.
Absolutely. And it was Pierre Poilievre, the leader of our so-called Conservative Party, who was my member of Parliament while this was happening to us in Ottawa. And I called him and told him all about how I had to sneak out of Iraq to come back to Canada to deal with those absolute maniacal monsters at the Children's Hospital of Eastern Ontario when they started calling her phone directly because she turned 16, which is the legal age of consent for medical treatment in Canada, and said, you don't need your daddy's permission anymore. You can just come on in here for your sex change. I don't know what I've never felt evil like that anywhere in the world like I felt in the Children's Hospital of Eastern Ontario. And Pierre Poilievre actually went out and voted for the bill that would have me thrown in jail if I were to take her to the United States just to get counseling to help her feel comfortable in her natural body.
Well, that's a guy you should confront.
Jordan Peterson too.
Yes. So, I'll help you confront him. That's pretty evil.
Yeah,
pretty evil.
Yeah, and I am confronting him, and that's a big part of the reason why I got into politics.
I hope I can't wait to see that. And if you ever need a videographer by your side, I'll be there to help you. You can show a picture of his face and see how he responds to that.
Yeah.
Jeff, what was your favorite part of our conversation today?
I kind of like doing the crossover between the different schools of thought, between the Christianity, Stoicism, taking the lessons from our ancestors. Like I said, I'm not a God-fearing man, but I appreciate that my ancestors bequeathed these stories to me because they intended for me to take a lesson from the hard times that they went through. And so I tried to do that. And as I said earlier, I think the lesson is that when times are at their darkest in the fourth turning, the way back into the light, the path to our salvation is through self-sacrifice and individual action.
Self-sacrifice. I also have some swag you gave me here. Thank you very much. V, for those of you who are not familiar, V4F stands for?
Veterans for Freedom.
That's the group that you run?
My buddy Drew McGilvery actually runs them. I've been something like a spokesperson.
Spokesperson for Veterans for Freedom?
Yeah.
And the shirt as well. Thank you very much for this beautiful shirt. I go to the gym and I wear these sorts of things to the gym. So we're going to be wearing that. And then this is the one that my staff is fighting for. People tried to nab it before we went to the show here. It's called Maple MAGA.
Yeah.
Maple. This is great.
It's beautiful.
This is great. This is mine. No leaders at last. I'll give it to my staff and I'll pick one letter. Well, thank you so much, Jeff. And until we see each other again in the field, which I'm sure we will, because I'll be back up there fighting for the truth and for the freedom of speech, right? So thank you very much, Jeff, for being here.
Yeah, I appreciate you, James. Thank you.
Every story we tell here at O'Keefe Media Group, breaking the news, going places others won't, taking risks others won't, is powered by your support and by our partners at American Independence Gold. All right, so we're here with Ryan Durda, Senior Vice President, American Independence Gold. Lots of people are talking about gold. Ryan, tell us the difference between investing in precious metals and regular stocks or mutual funds.
I mean, the easiest answer I can give you to that is with gold, silver, precious metals in general, there's no counterparty risk. So when I say counterparty risk with a stock, for example, if we look at, let's say, Apple, the entire board is one of your counterparties. The CEO, Tim Cook, is one of your counterparties. The staff that is responsible for developing products, marketing, those are counterparties. So you have risk in the success or failure of that individual counterparty. With gold and silver, there's no counterparty. There's no CEO of gold. There's no CEO of silver. It's a tangible asset that you own. In the case of a bond, right, we'll use the U.S. Treasury, right? The counterparty is the United States government. And right now, there's a little bit of lack of faith that exists in the United States government and or its ability to make good on its debt.
What types of investment portfolios would benefit from exposure to gold?
I mean, any and all. I think one of the most misleading things that people are told is that they have a well-diversified portfolio of stocks, bonds, mutual funds, bond funds. And the reality of that situation is they own one single asset class, which is they own securities. So albeit they might be diversified within a single asset class, they're not truly diversified. True diversification would be that you have a portfolio that exists of multiple asset classes that are non-correlated. So somebody with a portfolio of stocks, bonds, mutual funds, and bond funds would need to have gold and silver outside of that portfolio in order to call it a true portfolio hedge.
As of the time of this recording, what is the price of gold?
3,800 and change. To give you the exact number, I would have to,
Is that an all-time high?
It's absolutely. We've had 38 new all-time highs this year alone. Last year, I believe we hit the 74 all-time high mark.
And what is that like compared to, say, 10 years ago, 20 years ago?
To give a little history, gold, if we look at just from the beginning of this century, right? So that's the year 2000, the beginning of the century, it's 25 years ago. Gold itself has actually outperformed the entire S&P 500 threefold. Had you purchased gold in the year 2000, you're up 1,500% today. If you invested in the S&P 500 index and you reinvested all the dividends, you're up about 500% and change, right? So gold just hands down been an outperformer relative to the stock market indexes.
Is there a risk getting exposure to gold now after that huge increase?
All investments carry a certain level of risk, so I'll give you the disclosure there. Gold is what's called a tier 1 asset, which is a central bank definition, simply meaning that it is safe and it's liquid. Gold, by definition of the central banks, is a tier 1 asset. So that means it's a safe investment. It's literally one of the safest things that you can own in your portfolio. So once again, all investments carry a certain level of risk, but gold is considered to be the safest thing that you can own. Most people look at the price of gold today in nominal terms, meaning they simply look at it based on the dollar price of gold. But if we were to look at gold valued in other things, i.e., if we valued gold against, again, I'll go back to the S&P, the value of the S&P priced in gold, gold is still dirt cheap. And the same holds true with the NASDAQ or the Dow. If we look at the price of gold relative to all the currency in circulation, gold is still dirt cheap. So do I think now is still a great time to buy gold? Hands down, yes.
Right now, I'm offering my followers in the trenches this incredible one-time opportunity to credit your account up to $10,000 in free gold and silver on a qualifying purchase. That's right, this will help you get started protecting your wealth with real physical gold and silver while these historic price levels are still within reach. Go to O'KeefeMediaGold.com, that's O'KeefeMediaGold.com, or call 833-324-4653, 833-324-GOLD. Again, that's O'KeefeMediaGold.com or 833-324-GOLD. Take action, get the facts, and protect your future, because freedom isn't given, it's secured. This is James O'Keefe. Don't just watch history, own a piece of it. What is your price? Because if your price is not your life, then you are for sale.